I told you that we're going to start doing grand season previews. These are really fun. Like, they're really in depth. It takes a little while to produce them, but they're really fun. We do everything in these grand season previews. We do our own strength of schedule breakdown, which is much different than most other people's strength of schedule. We do the biggest questions. We do depth chart analysis. We do a best, worst, and most likely projection for your final record. And so I've been doing some pre-work on that, and I was looking at Auburn yesterday. And it occurred to me that yet again, this looks like the most unpredictable team in the entire Power 5 level of college football this year. Auburn always presses the threshold on our best, worst, and most likely. It's easy to say, oh, your best case is 10-0, your worst case is 2-8. Well, there's not a whole lot of skill in that. So normally I don't like to have any more than maybe a 4 or 5 game threshold between the best and the worst case. Auburn always pushes that because it seems like every year they're capable of having what we call a pop season, which is where, they pop up in the college football playoff conversation until very late in the year, or they could have a total disaster. And inevitably, Auburn is that team where you're sitting there in late August, as we are, and you're saying, you know what Auburn could do this year? They could sneak around, and they could wind up in Atlanta playing for the SEC title. But I'll tell you what else Auburn could do. Auburn could also crater horrifically into the ground and have cause to fire every single coach in that staff. 2020 is no different. I have no clue. No one, and this is the point, no one, even associated with Auburn, has any clue what to expect. Normally, the people you would lean on for what you would call inside information, they don't even know. And they don't have a whole lot of inside information because Gus Malzahn has that place locked down tighter than Gitmo right now. So let's just set the stage. Think amongst yourselves. If you're watching or listening right now, you probably have some opinion of Auburn. If you're an Auburn fan, certainly you do. What is it? You think along with me, because I'm telling you right now, I have not heard many of you tell me, Josh, I like him to win the West. I like him to contend for a playoff spot. Very few of you, a fringe minority, may have said that, but most of you haven't. But most of you have also not told me they're going to be terrible this year. They are going to suck water through a garden hose. No one's told me that, which is kind of a convenient way of just saying, I don't know. Kind of shrug your shoulders. I don't know. Anything's possible. And yes, Kevin Garnett, anything is possible with the Auburn Tigers this year. So no one's picking them to bomb. No one's picking them to shine. So let me tell you, as I was working through our best, worst, and most likely for Auburn that will be coming up in the Auburn Grand Season preview in the next couple of weeks, you've got sort of the angel-devil on either shoulder scenario. And let me tell you what the angel, the little orange and blue angel, is telling me. The orange and blue angel, who is presenting the best case for Auburn, is telling me, hey, Bo Nix is returning at quarterback, and that's a guy who is very underappreciated just in terms of a raw skill set. I watched him play in high school. He is extremely talented. And last year he was pressed into duty, starting action as a true freshman, and he did exactly what a true freshman did. He had some moments where he shined, and he had some moments where he was horrible. So consistency was a problem. But the angel is telling me, well, he's returning, and this is not last year. There is no Tua. There is no Joe Burrow. There's a lot of uncertainty, some solid pieces, but the SEC quarterback scene preseason is not one where you have multiple surefire first-round locks. Could Bo Nix be a guy that surpasses all expectation and end up being an all-SEC quarterback? That's what the orange and blue angel is saying. He's also saying, remember the offensive coordinator change. Chad Morris is coming in. And the angel is telling me, Josh, you respect Chad Morris. Yeah, I do. You respect his ability to evolve their passing game? If he's given the ability to, I do. You respect his ability to develop quarterbacks? Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, orange and blue angel, I do. Hey, Gus Malzahn, still the head coach there? Seems like he's been there 47 years at this point, and he's been on the hot seat 46 times out of those 47 years. Kevin Steele is still there too. That is probably the most underappreciated assistant coach in America. Adequately compensated at this point, but still underappreciated on a national level. And this is more schedule, granular based, it's an even number year, says the orange and blue angel on the left shoulder or right shoulder. But the even number years are normally death for Auburn because they have to go to Georgia and to Alabama. But in this even number year, it is a COVID year, which means those home field advantages probably pretty much evaporate. You playing in front of 25,000 people, you can pipe in more noise than 25,000 people make. So maybe you caught, if there is a time to catch a pandemic, you caught it at the right time. Now that's what the orange and blue angel is presenting. But then you know what we have on the other shoulder. I don't know what color you want him to be. We'll just make him red or crimson or whatever. Purple and gold for all I care. But the devil on the other shoulder is flicking away the orange and blue angel, and he's saying, how much innovation can you really have offensively if you didn't have a spring? This is not a problem unique to Auburn, but it's a problem nonetheless. Here's also what the devil says. Gus Malzahn can be committed fully to all of these changes, and he could say all the right things about handing the keys to the offense over to Chad Morris, but the devil whispers in my ear, you know as well as I do, this dude will hit the emergency brake at the first sign of trouble because you've seen him do it in the past. And then you have kind of an 80%, 20%, and then it's 60-40, and then it's 50-50, and yes, I have to admit that has happened before, so remains to be seen how he's going to handle it this year. I'm also told by the devil on the other shoulder, Bo Nix, extremely inconsistent last year, and when has Auburn and Gus Malzahn ever developed their own in-house quarterback? In their best years, they've been working with a guy they got from the transfer market. And I have to slowly nod my head, and I have to agree with that. I mean, I can tell him I think Chad Morris is the difference there. I don't know that Chad Morris is the difference there. Offensive line has been a fear amongst those people inside that program for 2 years now. They have known the 2020 offensive line situation could be rough. How rough? Well, there's currently one offensive lineman on their entire roster who has started a game for Auburn, and that's Nick Brahms, center, I believe. Now, they got a transfer in there, so it's not quite as dire as it sounds, but they have one offensive lineman on that entire roster who has started a game for the Auburn Tigers. Could be that the other four just wildly surpass all expectation. Could be. I mean, if they're starting at Auburn, they're good enough to start at Auburn. However, you also have a first-year offensive line coach there, so you made a position coach change. And so there's a lot of moving parts there, and that devil whispers in my ear, really? You think they're going to have it together right off the bat? And they're going to have to. They play Georgia in week 2. They don't have an easy one in week 1 against Kentucky. And last but not least, Derek Brown, Marlon Davidson, just stalwarts on that defensive line. Seems like they were there for a long time, too. They're gone. And you can tell me about all the junior and senior veteran leadership that you have to plug in behind them. You don't just replace guys like that. And that defense has been the name of the game at Auburn. That's been the identity, even when you've got an offensive-minded head coach in Gus Malzahn. Defense has been the identity. That's been what they've leaned on to win, and so you kind of gutted the middle of that defense. They're really good at linebacker this year, make no mistake, but got some holes there. And so with all that said, is anyone watching or listening to this any more convinced one way or the other as to what the Auburn Tigers will do this year? I'm not, and I'm the one who just ran my mouth for like 7 minutes. So that's what makes the Auburn Tigers, to me, the biggest mystery team out of anyone even remotely close to contention in the 2020 college football season. Nobody has a good feel on them.